If the Tennessee Titans want to win in Week 14, Calvin Ridley must get his revenge. I'll explain on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the final third of the NFL season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On today's episode, we are going to do a game plan preview. I'm going to give you my keys to victory for the Titans, including the Titans getting out to a fast start. We're going to look at the players to watch in this game. And of course, Calvin Ridley needs to get his revenge. And then finally, I'll do my score prediction in this game, do some fantasy, do some gambling as well. Before we get into all of it, do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. And as a reminder, I'll be going live immediately after the game ends on Sunday to break down all of the action and hopefully a Tennessee Titans victory. But with that being said, we do got to start with my keys to victory in this game. And I talked about it on Crossover Thursday yesterday with my guy Tony Wiggins from Locked On Jaguars. But the Titans absolutely must get out to a fast start in this game. And it's more than just this game in itself. Like I talked about on yesterday's show, it's not just, hey, you always want to get out to a fast start. That's always going to be one of the goals of the team. You want to come out, you want to play good football from the start of the game, get good momentum, not allow the other team who you're better than to have momentum as well. So it's obvious that the Titans want to get out to a fast start. But again, it's bigger than just this game. It's bigger than just starting out Week 14 with a fast start. The Titans have to put last week's slow start out of their minds. So if the Titans come out and get a slow start going, if they get the ball first and punt, and then Jacksonville scores a touchdown, or they happen to get down 10-0 early, all of those feelings from last week against the Commanders where they got down big early, those are going to come back and they're going to compound. And it's going to feel like I said with Tony, it's not going to feel like you're down 10-0. It's going to feel like you're down 52-19 based on what happened last week. So the Titans have to wash away the negative emotions and the bad vibes from their start against the Commanders and come out and play good football from the start here to remind themselves that that is something that they can do. So number one on my list, a fast start for the Tennessee Titans is absolutely critical in this game. And moving from kind of the psychological aspect of the game into something tangibly on the field, the Titans have to run the football again. Last week, they were not able to run the football whatsoever, and that's not because Washington, could stop the run so well or anything like that. It is essentially because the Titans got down so early. They just weren't able to go to the run consistently, and they had to start throwing the ball because they were down 28-0 before you could open up your beer. You know what I mean? Like it happened so fast that you had to abandon the run game because you had to be quicker and get points. Well, they're going up against another team that is not good at stopping the run. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a bottom 10 rushing defense, giving up 133 rushing yards per game. So the Titans have to continue to be balanced on offense. They have to get back to running the football with consistency. And one thing that I'm going to point out here, kind of a bonus player to watch, the Titans have to get Tyjae Spears more involved in this game. They have to. No doubt about it. I talked about Tyjae Spears on Wednesday's show when I talked about players that I want to see more from this week. And getting Tyjae Spears involved, not only is Tyjae Spears a weapon in the offense, like we saw his rookie year, how he can help this team, and especially in that last game against Jacksonville, where he was able to catch a screen pass and take it about 30 yards down the sideline for a touchdown. The Titans have to get Tyjae Spears in space, and not only that, but they need to spell Tony Pollard some. I think the drops that we saw, Tony Pollard had like 3 drops in that game against the Washington Commanders. And I think part of the reason that we're seeing that is he is tired. Tony Pollard has taken on a workload this year that I don't think that he's had to have in previous years in his career when he was a part of committee with Dallas, with Zeke Elliott and all that. Like, they are asking a lot of Tony Pollard this year because Tyjae Spears has missed so much time. So now that you have Tyjae Spears back, get Tyjae Spears involved in the run game. Spell Tony Pollard a little bit. I would love for Tyjae Spears to have more carries and more touches in this game than Tony Pollard. Let's finally give Tony Pollard a little bit of a rest so that he can be ready for the back half or the back stretch of the season here. I want to get Tyjae Spears more involved. And if Tony Pollard is going to drop passes, then we have to get Tyjae Spears more involved in the passing game in those situations as well. So the Titans have to get back to running the football with success. That's going to keep the offense balanced. It's going to allow Will Levis to have more success in the passing game as well and set up situations where they're not in 3rd and long, because Jacksonville is another man coverage defense, just like the Commanders were, just like the Lions were. So the Titans struggle with man coverage. They have for years and years. It feels like it's something that I've been talking about is their struggles with man coverage. So run the football, get back to that. And then my final key to victory for the Tennessee Titans is turnover prevention. Look, I don't even think that the Tennessee Titans have to win the turnover battle to win this game. As long as they don't lose the turnover battle, they're going to win this game. And I talked about it again on Crossover Thursday with my guy Tony, but the great equalizer in football is turnovers. And I don't think that the Titans are so significantly better of a football team than Jacksonville that, it's like some crazy upset for Jacksonville to win. But at the end of the day, I do believe that the Tennessee Titans are a better football team than Jacksonville. And when you consider that Trevor Lawrence is most likely going to miss this game after that dirty hit from Azeez Al-Shire, you're going to be playing with a backup quarterback. Like, the Titans are the better team. The Titans are the favorite. The Titans are at home. The Titans should win this game. And the easy way to flip all that on its head is to lose the turnover battle and to give Jacksonville short fields for their offense and to get your defense in short yardage situations immediately. Like, the Titans simply cannot lose the turnover battle. If they tie it 1-1, they tie it 2-2, something like that, then the Titans should still be in a good spot. But if you lose the turnover battle, you are just putting yourself in a terrible, terrible position. So start fast, run the football, and don't lose the turnover battle. If the Titans do that, I think they win this game. And now let's zoom in, talk about the individual players that I am watching in this game. And, of course, Calvin Ridley needs to get his revenge. That and more on today's edition of Locked On Titans. Today's episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite. And right now, you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, you could score an extra $30 off with the promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. Me personally, I'm going to be picking up a package of Omaha Steaks for my stepdad. It's always a perfect gift. The gift of steak. What more could a man want? You know what I mean? So from legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, my listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase is required. Also, today's episode is brought to you by Skylight Frames. Again, another fantastic holiday gift. I'm not a very good gift giver. I'll just admit it. It's hard. I'm an adult now. My parents are older. They have everything they need. Most of the people in my life have everything they need. So what do you get somebody who doesn't really need things? You get them a Skylight frame with the emotional value that it can bring. So here's how Skylight frame works. Basically, it's a digital photo frame. It's touchscreen as well, and it's something that your entire family will love because you can upload thousands of photos, and you can upload those photos straight from your phone, and they're going to appear in seconds on the skylight frame. Setup takes less than 60 seconds, and you can constantly update the pictures from the mobile app on your phone. So you can always put new pictures on. Think you're taking pictures of your kids. You want to send them to your parents. You're, taking pictures out when you're on vacation. You can immediately upload those to the photo frame in your house. And look, a lot of people share photos on social media, but some photos you want to keep private within your family, and you can do that on Skylight Frame. And now, as a special limited offer for my listeners, you can get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NFL. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NFL. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframes.com/NFL. Titans fans, let's continue today's game plan edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We looked at my keys to victory for the team as a whole. Now I want to zoom in and talk about my players to watch in this game. Before I get into it, thanks again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed. Stay subscribed. It's your team every day. But looking at the players to watch it again, Calvin Ridley needs to get his revenge. All right, Jacksonville tried to play in his face. They tried to play with him. They didn't want to give him an extension early because they wanted to cheat the Atlanta Falcons out of a draft pick. They wanted to kind of play it as late as they possibly could in the free agency process so they could go out and sign other players rather than taking care of Calvin Ridley and getting the contract done. Now, you could look back and say, well, because they didn't sign Calvin Ridley back, they went out and got Brian Thomas Jr., which ultimately probably was the right move. But if you're Calvin Ridley, he said himself, he expected to be back in Jacksonville. He wanted to be back in Jacksonville. That was what his expectation was going into free agency. And they played in his face. And they tried to use him and they tried to deprioritize him. So you know that Calvin Ridley's got something a little extra this week. Okay? That is absolutely a fact. And, everybody saw the Michael Jordan documentary. I took that personally. Professional athletes and pro sports, whether you agree with it or not, use every little possible thing for motivation that they can. I talked about this last week when I talked about Brian Callahan being extra motivated against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals didn't do Brian Callahan wrong in any way whatsoever. But that doesn't mean that when the Titans play the Bengals, there isn't going to be extra motivation to beat Cincinnati for Brian Callahan in the locker room. You know what I mean? Like, this is pro sports. This is sports. This is how it works. You take crazy things and you turn it into motivation. So Calvin Ridley doesn't even need to do that with this one. They literally played in his face and said, we're not as worried about losing you. And he came to Tennessee and now we're here. So Calvin Ridley has to go crazy. And outside of the motivational factors here, you know what I mean? Purely football, Calvin Ridley has to have a great game. Again, it's the same exact concept that we talked about last week when we talked about the Commanders schematically on defense. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a heavy man coverage defense. That is what they do. Ryan Nielsen is their defensive coordinator, and he wants to play tight man coverage. He wants to crowd the line of scrimmage. He wants to bring pressure. And when you're going up against a team that's heavy man coverage, like the Titans saw with the Detroit Lions, you have to find a way to get Calvin Ridley free. That is what this is going to be about. The Titans did it with success last week, but a couple of little inches here and there. Calvin Ridley was open on a deep pass in the end zone, and Will Levis put it just a little too far. You think about the deep crossing route from Calvin Ridley over the middle where he kind of stopped in the middle of a zone, and Levis thought he was going to keep going. Those little things, they got to hit on those this week. Those things got to happen. There was plenty of opportunity for Calvin Ridley to have a 100-yard game with a touchdown last week, and they were just a couple of inches away. They can't allow that to happen this week. They got to convert on those plays. Calvin Ridley is a pure separator. He's a route god. He is going to be open against man coverage. The Titans need to do a better job of getting him open on some rub routes and some mesh concepts where he's doing just a short drag route and make it easy on Will Levis, where Levis doesn't have to hit Calvin Ridley 40 yards down the field or 30 yards down the field to make the completion happen. Get Calvin Ridley going across the field on a little drag route, hit him, let him catch the ball and turn up field and do the work himself. Like, the Titans have to find a balance between just hitting Calvin Ridley deep and hitting Calvin Ridley underneath against that man coverage. So this has to be a huge, huge week for Calvin Ridley, not only for the emotional and motivational reasons, but also schematically going against the Jacksonville Jaguars coverage and what they like to do. This is where Calvin Ridley makes his money. So very excited to see Calvin Ridley perform in this one. Outside of that, the offensive tackles, J.C. Latham, whether it's Leroy Watson back, whether it's Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, either way, the offensive tackles are going to have a much more difficult matchup this week and have to perform much better this week. The offensive tackles actually had a pretty good game last week against Washington. J.C. Latham and NPF, outside of Peter Skoronski, who has just been nails for like 8 straight weeks now. Outside of Peter Skoronski, it was J.C. Latham and Nicholas Petit-Ferrer who had the best day on the offensive line. Now, Josh Hines-Allen and Travon Walker are a totally different beast. That is a difficult edge rush group. Very similar, not at the level, but similar to Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter for Houston. Like, the Jags edge rushers are much closer to Houston's than they are Washington's. You know what I mean? So this is going to be a much more difficult matchup than last week for the offensive tackles, and they have to come ready to play, and the Titans have to be ready to help them as well with chips from the running backs and the tight ends. That has to be part of the plan here because those Jacksonville edge rushers can absolutely disrupt the game, and I'm less worried about the interior rushers from Jacksonville as well. I would expect Jacksonville to blitz a lot in this game to try to attack that interior if the tackles are having a good performance early on. But my final player to watch in this game is the return of Chido Awuzie. He should be back for the Titans this week and going up against Brian Thomas Jr. That is a match up to watch. I would imagine that if Roger McCreary doesn't play in this game, as we talked about on Wednesday's episode, that they're going to slide Jarvis Brownlee Jr. into the slot and have Darrell Baker Jr. and Cheeto on the outside. And look, they're going to move Brian Thomas Jr. around and get him on Darrell Baker, which I'm a bit worried about. But if Cheeto is back, he's getting paid good money to be a good cornerback here. He needs to have a good game. If you're back out on the field, no excuses. You need to make sure that you don't let Brian Thomas Jr. go crazy because that's the one thing that the Jaguars can do on offense that can totally change the game and create explosive plays. So I am looking for Calvin Ridley, the offensive tackles, and Chido Awuzie back out on the field for the Tennessee Titans. But with that being said, let's get into my predictions. Game and score prediction, fantasy, gambling, all of that coming right now. It's Locked On Titans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Do want to let you guys know about our new sponsor, IceShaker.com. Locked On Titans fans, I know that you're like me and your holiday shopping list is, let's just say, far from complete. Well, if that's the case, I've got the perfect gift for passionate sports fans in your life. Perhaps you've heard of Ice Shaker. Ice Shaker is now an officially licensed product with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and MLB, and makes the ideal gift. It was created by and used by the Gronkowski brothers. Ice Shakers has sold over 1 million bottles. They have changed the game with workout bottles, and this is a gift that you've been looking for. Go to iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout to save 25% off your order. Look, this is kitchen-grade stainless steel bottles. They're not going to absorb odors and stuff like plastic bottles do. My ice shaker right now is in the wash because I'm so happy to use it. Just got it in the mail. I'm getting it washed out. I'm ready to go. It's got like a kind of like a bubble at the top of it for your protein powder. It's like a built-in shaker for you. I would like to put lemons in there to add some lemony flavor to my water as well. I mean, ton of possibilities. This thing is so awesome. And when we talk about Ice Shaker next week, I'm literally going to have it and show you on the screen because they are so freaking cool. My girl, my fiance is like, I need to get one for myself. Like, I love these things. Make sure that you order your team branded bottles today at iceshaker.com. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. Ice Shaker, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. ice shakers. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action in the final third of the season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Tennessee Titans money line, I'm just saying. Make sure you go to FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Titans fans, let's cap off today's game plan episode of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about my keys to victory, talked about my players to watch in this game. Let me know your players to watch, your keys to victory on Twitter at TicTacTitans, or down below in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. But with that being said, we got to get into my predictions here. All right. And I think that if you've been watching the show for the last few days, which you should be, and shout out to my everydayers who are, you probably know how I'm leaning on this one. And it's not even a lean. I feel pretty convinced. I'm pretty confident, I would say, in what I think is going to happen in this game. Before I tell you, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL. I'm the lead host of Locked On NFL. Get your Titans news here with me. Get your NFL news with me at Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My score prediction is 23-17 Titans. I think the Tennessee Titans win this game. I think that the Jaguars are just not a good enough team with Mac Jones to beat the Titans at home, a motivated Titans team after getting shellacked by the Commanders last week. I've talked about why this is an absolute must win for Brian Callahan. Everything about this game leads me to believe that the Tennessee Titans should win the game. If they don't, we are going to have quite the conversation on Sunday after the game into Monday morning. But the Titans are going to win this game, 23-17. I fully believe that. I'm fully on board. And I think that the Titans could even be up 23-10, and Jacksonville kind of gets like a garbage time touchdown at the end to make it closer. If the Titans are really on their game, I could see it being 30-17, 31-17, something like that. But the Titans need to come out and play good football here. And I think that they will. I mean, maybe that's a fool's errand at the end of the day, but I think that they will. Now, moving along to the gambling aspect of this game and keeping it plus 100, as I like to call it. The Titans are 3.5-point favorites right now at home. And the over-under is 39.5. Well, if I think the Titans win by 6 points, clearly I like the spread at -3.5. I would love it even better if it was at 3. Just, I could say what I think is going to happen, but I found in my life that's not always what happens. So you'd be a little less confident with your bets. That's probably the route that I would go. But -3.5, I would do it. I would prefer the Tennessee Titans money line just to take the points out of it. The over-under, I mean, that's tough. I mean, I got 23-17, which would be over. That would be 40. If I had to, I hate doing over-unders. I talked about this last week. I hate doing over-unders. They never seem to go right for me. It's just difficult enough to guess who's going to win and by how many points, let alone how many points are going to be scored in the game. I would stay away from the over-under, but if I had to lean, I would lean over. But again, I don't feel super confident, but I feel much more confident in Titans -3.5 and then the Titans money line. And quite honestly, if you're somebody who does like to get a little action on FanDuel on these games, I would get there now and get the Titans -3.5, because I have a feeling that the sharps are going to be on the Titans and that line might go up to 4 or 4.5 by the time we get to Sunday. So if it drops to 3 or 2.5, you sprint there and you get that action. That's what I would tell you. But I do feel confident enough in the Titans to say -3.5. I like that bet. I'll take that bet for the Titans. And then finally, my dark twisted fantasy player of the game. I'm going back to the well. I know I said it last week, and it didn't necessarily work out. Calvin Ridley only had 2 catches for 45 yards. But like I said earlier, he was inches away from having a monster game with a long touchdown down the left side and the deep crossing route over the middle for another 20. Like, Calvin Ridley was a couple inches away from having 100 yards and a touchdown in this game. And I think against a defense that's not as good as Washington's and not as well coached as Washington's, and with the added additional layer of the motivation that Calvin Ridley is going to have, that he's going to find a way to put up monster numbers in this game. I think Calvin Ridley goes over 100 yards. I think he scores a touchdown in this one. Calvin Ridley is my dark, twisted, beautiful fantasy player of the game. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Get subscribed, stay subscribed, throw a thumbs up on the video, throw a tighten up down in the chat if you're watching on YouTube. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.